Hello and welcome to the next episode of Played Gaming Podcast. My name is Simon and I'm going to be going through everything retro gaming, pure nostalgia, and we're talking about mental health all the way through these episodes. So please stay tuned. Let's get it going. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. If you're new here, I'm Ed, and this podcast is all about gaming, reselling, nostalgia, mental health, and all of the journeys that come with it. So far, we've covered who I am and what I do, my childhood gaming memories, and in the last episode, we talked about mental health and how gaming and reselling have helped me personally. Thank you for all of the feedback I've received from this episode. It's opened my eyes, it's built up conversations, and I'm so grateful for everyone joining in. For this episode, I wanted to shift things slightly and talk about something I'm really passionate about, retro games. We all play them, and how they still influence all of the modern gaming today. Because even if you don't play retro games, the chances are some of your favourite modern games wouldn't exist without them. So let's start. Where did it all start? So when we were talking about retro gaming, we usually talk about the late 70s, early 80s, 90s, the really early days of gaming. Like the consoles that we had were the Atari, the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Mega Drive, and then it moved on to the PlayStation, and then it changed everything. Before that, gaming was either arcade-based or really you couldn't really access it as much. And there was massive limitations on the games. For example, on the Mega Drive, you couldn't save your games. I remember getting onto Lion King and you just had to leave it and then you'd have to go back to it. There was also very little memory. The graphics were quite basic and the sounds were quite limited as well. And also, if a game was shipped and it was broken, that was it. And there was no patches, there was no updates. It was literally, that was just the game. So what they had to focus on, the developers that is the gameplay. That's where, like clever levels, all the difficulties had to be rewarded and where they came from. Games had to be fun because they couldn't rely on the graphics or massive open worlds. And then that started to open up when you got Mario, Zelda, Sonic, and one of my all-time favourites of a Final Fantasy. These were very successful, but they also created genres when it came to gaming. So one of the biggest impacts on retro games that it had on modern gaming is the idea of gameplay is always first. The game should be readable instantly. This is what retro games have taught us, and you should always learn something if you fail. And you can see this in loads of modern games. Like if you've played Dark Souls, they're tough but fair. Just like retro games were. You die, you learn, and you improve. This mindset came directly from the retro gaming. Retro games did not hold your hand. There was nothing to like tutorials, no difficulty sliders. It was all the same for everyone. There was no checkpoints every 5 seconds. But we all loved that. We kept going back and back and back. And people are still going back now. And modern games have brought that challenge back in a more refined way. And instead of them being unfair, they were like quite demanding. Like I keep going back to Lion King because I never completed it. I found it so bloody hard. And like I was playing eSWAT the other day and I was like, this is really difficult. And I was like, I've got to do it. I've got to beat that boss. I've got to clear that level because it gave you that sense of achievement. It's just in its DNA as a retro game to make it that bloody hard. And we used to think, oh, these are quite easy. But then the modern gaming, in my opinion, is a lot easier than what it was when I was a child. So, to be honest, the kids of today, they don't know what they didn't get unless they go back and play the retro games. Another influence that was like massive in retro gaming and how it's affected and influenced the modern gaming is pixel art was once a limitation. It's now the art style. Indie games have embraced it, so yeah, there's lots. There's loads of games and they look retro, but they play modern. The blend of the old and new is so powerful. And nostalgia isn't just about remembering the past. It's about feeling comfortable, connected, and the developers know that. And all of the retro aesthetics tap straight into it. It is unbelievable. And then you can go into getting into the remakes and remasters. So Resident Evil 2, Crash Bandicoot, Final Fantasy, and all of these have been remade on PS4, PS5, and we all know that the better ones were definitely on the PS1, 100%. And they show how strong the retro foundations still are. The gameplay, characters, and the worlds were so good and solid that they were built again decades later and still are such a successful game, to be honest. It just tells you everything about how those original games were designed. It was unbelievable. So good. So tell me, what remakes have you been playing recently? And what was your favourite one? Also, what console was it on? Was it on the PS1 or was it earlier? Because you never know. There's lots of different remakes out there. So for me personally, the old school games wasn't just about playing them. It's about having the memories with them. So it's when you get up and you have to sit on the floor with it and play it there. Or the old, when you've got the Game Boy or the Mega Drive and you have to blow into the cartridges. Let's get this going. That doesn't work. Right, try the old school blow tricks if that works. Learning that you have to be patient with it. Because some of the, like I said before, the retro games, they weren't easy. And also it taught us resilience without, do apologise, without actually realising it, because you had to keep going, and if you died, you had to restart, and that was it, really. It was building up your resilience and everything. It was great. And since running Played Gaming and seeing how much of a retro love there is, younger players are now discovering them for the first time, which is fantastic. Like, I've done gaming markets and I've seen people that are 18, 19 and they're buying earlier than PS1. It's like they're buying a Mega Drive because they've heard such good things about them. And then us, older generation, I'm not that old to be fair, but we're reconnecting with them and it's unbelievable. Retro gaming is, it sounds stupid, retro gaming is the future in my opinion, because everyone's going back to it. It is definitely the way forward for gaming enthusiasts. And if you look on other channels on YouTube or anything like that, you'll see all these gaming collections and they are fantastic. And also, since I've been selling on Whatnot, like I said before, I've built up a community with people, and yeah, we're seeing people's like collections and things that they've loved over the years and really like dedicating a room, or some of them have got more than that. It's really nice to see, because it's like, oh look, what memories do they have with those games? Because like Abe's Odyssey on the PS1, GTA, Metal Gear Solid, my memories were just playing them with family or sitting there for hours trying to work out where Snake had to go on this particular mission and what to do. And then there's obviously, like I keep going back to the Mega Drive, it's just Aladdin, all those like Disney ones that I keep going back to were really, really tough. And what else was there? There was loads. And I've since been playing the Mega Drive Classics on the PS4, and I know it's not the same. It's like, if the Mega Drive game doesn't work, you blow into the cartridge because there's like 30 games loaded onto this disc already. But it's still bringing back, oh, I remember this bit. Oh, I remember that. Like, one of the toughest games I think I've played, like old school, was Paperboy. It was just like, why? Who would think, oh yeah, let's make a game about throwing paper through people's letterboxes? Such a brilliant idea, to be honest. So when people say retro games are possibly outdated, I disagree massively. As I said before, I actually think they're going to be the future, because there's so many people getting back into retro gaming, and if it wasn't for the retro games, we wouldn't have the modern games now, 100%, because they shaped the way that these are made now. It's great. The modern games borrow their mechanics, the art styles, and going back to making them actually a bit more difficult for people to complete is where I think they should go into the modern gaming. So my little ending and reflection upon this episode is, without the retro gaming, modern gaming wouldn't exist in the way that we actually know it. So I'd like to say a massive thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed it, let me know what retro games influenced you the most, and what modern games you think feel retro inspired. As always, feel free to reach out to me. You know where I am. Let's like, share, and let's keep this conversation going. I shall see you all in the next episode. Have a fantastic day. Take care, everyone. Bye.